We've seen wild market fluctuations and extraordinary Western cooperation since Russia invaded Ukraine. What's the likely outcome for Putin and Russia, and how will it affect the global economy long term? Joining me now, Eurasia Group President and the author of The Power of Crisis, Ian Bremmer. Ian, thanks for coming back on the show. Appreciate it. I'd like to start at the end. What are the most likely outcomes of Russia's invasion? Are there any off-ramps that could allow Putin to back up and declare some sort of face-saving victory?
You know, a lot of people have been asking me how this ends, and my response is, what makes you think it ends? The way to have an off-ramp is if you believe there's anything that Putin would be willing to accept as a climb down. And my problem with that, the reason I think it's very unlikely, is because I legitimately can't see a circumstance where Putin won't be dramatically less powerful in terms of his domestic political position, in terms of Russia's economic position, and in some ways, most importantly, in terms of Russia's geopolitical position, especially security-wise in Europe, than they were and than Putin was before he ordered the invasion of Ukraine. So the Ukrainians are the big losers here, but Putin is a very close second. And, you know, as a malignant narcissist dictator who's going to feel like he's in a corner, it's just hard to imagine him accepting a negotiated climb down. So for the foreseeable future, no, I think this is the end of the peace dividend. It's a new Cold War with Russia, and it's a permanent decoupling economically of Russia from the advanced industrial economies of the world.
I want to pursue that one, but I want to ask you about the other extreme, which is how bad could this become? Does the West escalate with something like a no-fly zone? Or does Putin feel more emboldened or more crazy, however you want to define it, and go into Moldova?
Well, Moldova doesn't feel like much of an escalation after 44 million Ukrainians are being invaded by Russia. And nothing against the Moldovans, but you're not going to drive that headline. I think it's very clear that the West will not impose a no-fly zone. The West will not send soldiers on the ground to defend the Ukrainians. And the reason for that is because the West believes that that would precipitate direct conflict with the Russians and could lead to World War III. Here's the problem. The Russians don't perceive the conflict that way. For the Russians, they believe that sending advanced military systems to defend the Ukrainians against Russia and kill more Russians, providing intelligence on the real-time disposition of Russian troops on the ground in Ukraine to better allow the Ukrainians to blow them up, as well as the West trying to destroy the Russian economy and freeze all of their central bank assets, their war chest. The Russians see all of those things as acts of war. And the likelihood that the Russians retaliate as a consequence against NATO is almost certain. Now, that doesn't mean World War III, but it certainly means cyber attacks. It certainly means economic attacks. And it possibly means attacks against Western citizens living on the ground in Russia, asymmetric attacks, not just disinformation, but maybe terrorism in countries that are providing those weapons. The Russians have made clear that they see the countries providing weapons as directly responsible and will be held accountable for it. What does that mean? We're going to find out.
Yeah. So that does sound like Cold War verging onto hot war. One thing that's different from the old days of the Cold War is that that the oligarchs, some Russian citizens, are now global citizens, right? They've got yachts in St. Bart's and houses in the south of France and penthouses in New York. At some point, can we squeeze those oligarchs enough that they decide Putin in power is very much against their interest, or at least his policies are so much against their interest they can do something?
Well, they'd have no money if it wasn't for Putin. And so, I mean, that is among the most loyal and among the most cowardly of Russian demographics. And those that will turn against Putin will be those that are safely ensconced, or they believe they're safely ensconced outside of Russia.
Okay, one more quick question if we can. Yeah. I don't know how closely you watched American domestic politics, but it has been interesting to see Democrats and Republicans actually unite on something, support for Ukraine. Former President Trump, meanwhile, has made statements of admiration for Putin. Does this pull the Republicans away from him at all? Can we see cooperation, or is that cooperation over as soon as this is over?
Look, I mean, for the first 5 minutes of the State of the Union, if you squinted, you could have imagined that the United States was a functional representative democracy. It's unlikely to make it until the midterms.
I'm sure that's true. Ian Bremmer, your insights are always great. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good to see you guys.